Hello and welcome to the Outdoor Gibbon episode 26. Today we will be talking with Ben from Deercentral. But before we get into the main body of the podcast, let's just have a quick catch up and discuss what's been going on. I think the first thing we should probably talk about is there is a consultation out for Scotland only at the moment to look at whether all deer stalkers should have training. So be that the DSC1, DSC2, PDS1, PDS2, but basically if you want to manage deer, you have to have this qualification in play. What are your thoughts on it? There's obviously a consultation happening, so if you're in Scotland, it's worthwhile probably getting over there and responding to that. You may well have missed it if you're listening to this podcast in 2025, but it is current at the moment. As this podcast is literally going out at the beginning of February, there have been some interesting articles in the national press. I think the Sunday Times ran an article regarding deer stalking and venison, and the Telegraph has just had another article out regarding the consumption of venison, which is kind of nice to see that suddenly deer are making the front pages of, or the pages of the newspapers. And it's not all about people just shooting Bambi. It's actually about a sustainable, healthy food. So possibly the deer stalking community, we're getting through, and possibly we'll see venison more accessible to people that aren't just in the hunting society. What else is new? We have recently had some podcast stickers produced. Now these stickers can be stuck on anything, hopefully your car or windows or gun cases. It's just something that if somebody asks you, you can at least tell them about the podcast. If you're interested in getting hold of one of these, they will be available at the Stalking Show, or you can either drop me an email or DM me and drop us your address, and we will get you a sticker out in the post. Get it stuck on something, send us back a photo of what you've stuck it on, and hopefully it'll spread the word far and wide, and more people will listen to the podcast. Anyway, let's get on with the main podcast. So we interviewed Ben from Deercentral. Deercentral is a one-stop shop for everything you could want as a deer stalker, be it a knife to some training. Now, everything that Ben talks about in here is his own personal view and doesn't have anything to do with the bodies that he works for. Just get that one out there before we start. But anyway, let's crack on and listen to what Ben and I spoke about. Hello and welcome to the Outdoor Gibbon podcast. Today I am joined by Ben from Deercentral. Everything you would ever need to get yourself into deer stalking. Hello, Ben.
Hi, Peter. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem at all. I know it's been a bit crazy trying to fit you in round getting clients out and stuff like that, but we finally managed to nail a time down to get this recording done.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's good to be busy, but I've been looking forward to actually chatting to you and getting on an interview.
Excellent. So my question usually to every client, every guest that comes on here is tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started in the shooting game.
Yeah, well, I was born and grew up in the Dunstable area, Bedfordshire, and I didn't have a rural upbringing as such, but I went to school with some from friends that did, and they got me into air rifle shooting. So I was able to go and get some farms local to Dunstable, and I remember going down there on my pushbike with my air rifle, stalking up hedgerows, painstakingly stalking rabbits like inch at a time, and I learnt my fieldcraft there originally and got caught that bug, if you like, but then I joined the forces at 17.
Right.
So I had a completely different type of training, and I learnt how to shoot in the forces as well. And I remember opting in for shooting competitions and things like that. I really loved the competitions, and the any time on the range. I loved that. Some people hated it. I loved it. But it wasn't till 2003 when I was in Iraq, and I just had that itch to something. When I got back home, I wanted to get out and go and do some hunting again. And I was doing the research, and I came across the deer stalking certificate.
Okay.
So I booked onto that at Stanton Down in Thetford, and it was pure luck that through that course and the networking that I did on that course, that I was put in touch with someone that was involved with managing deer on the MOD estate.
Oh, right. Wow.
So off the back of DSC1, I entered the organisation as a trainee, and I went through something. I think it was near a 2-year probation as a trainee, where I was under the wing of a number of different experienced deer managers, and it wasn't just deer stalking I was taught. I was taught census work, cull planning, putting together the plans and the estimates, and then and it was expected that after you eventually got upgraded, you take on responsibility. So I was eventually put in charge of an area myself, and then took on trainees and developed them, and yeah, that's how I got into it, and so I feel really, really lucky.
I was going to say that sounds really interesting, obviously, because the MOD side of things, they've got a lot of land, and there's a lot of deer roaming around on that land. But I think Salisbury is one of their biggest areas that's pretty packed with animals, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something like 260,000 hectares nationwide, yeah, something like that. It's a huge estate, but effectively, the Defence Deer Management are service providers. It's a very professionally run organisation, and yeah, I've got a lot to be thankful for, really, with that.
So let's just dig a bit deeper on that one for me, because some people might not know. Now, is that open only to serving military, or is that open to the general public?
No, I mean, the way it's run, it's volunteer force within the services, but
right.
But no, I mean, if only it can. I can't talk too much. I'm not a representative for the organisation or anything like that, but and it's something that can be found by serving personnel if they're interested in it. But it's,
okay.
But yeah, at the time, I was. Yeah, it was really lucky. I was put in touch with a regional representative, and there was an opening for me.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just handy to know, obviously, if there's any guys that are listening that are still serving and they're looking to get into it, then that's obviously something they can go down the route of. Because I know there's another scheme now that started for the Marines called Project Artemis, which is obviously offering rifle shooting, and I think they've got a division that a friend of mine's looking at, which is the bow hunting side of things. Similar idea. Have you had any dealings with them?
Not directly, but indirectly. I mean, I've had a good chat with people involved. It's a small world, isn't it? So
it is really.
There's a chap called Steve who's integral to sort of organising that group, and I know it's a really great opportunity for Royal Marines to get into deer stalking. They've got that's what they do. They kind of try and it's for Royal Marines.
It's kind of a full sort of training course to actually give them some extra skills and stuff like that at the end of it, really. That's what I was led to believe. Anyway, moving on from your background on that, you run, as people might know if they've had a look, you run Deercentral, which is like a one-stop shop for somebody coming into deer stalking, or just any deer stalker. Tell us a bit about how that started and sort of where it's gone to.
Yeah, well, I left the forces quite some time ago, and I actually spent 11 years as a butler on a sporting estate.
Oh, right.
Wow. So I was really lucky there as well, where I had an understanding employer who encouraged me to pursue my own interest outside of work, and my main interest has always been deer. It's been a bit of an obsession for me, and so I kept a lot of my volunteer work going, and I picked up ground in the local area, and I eventually started helping on a regional DSC1 course, delivering training. So the kind of enjoyment of passing on knowledge and skills has always been sort of integral to my enjoyment of the outdoors, really. So Deercentral was born out of the experience that I've built up delivering training within defence deer management, and then wanting to develop that and deliver DSC1 courses, and then take people deer stalking after that. But yeah, that's how that started, and there came a point within the employment I had that I realised to devote the time I needed to deliver good quality service, I was going to have to plan to take it full time, and that was quite a nerve-wracking, period where I had to try and figure out how I was going to build this business to the point where I could jump into it full time. So I took on the retail side of things. So I wanted to supply good kit as well as teach people, how to use it, and it grew.
Oh, fantastic. So that sort of leads us on to, obviously, I think I found Deercentral purely because you started posting stuff about a sling, a 3-point harness sling. I think Z-aim point or whatever it was the sling I had, and nobody made it anymore. And you guys had demonstrated and created this absolutely fantastic looking new leather sling that was a 3-point harness sling, and it was pre-order and all the rest of it. So I think I signed up for a pre-order. So tell us about how you came with, well, that came out. That was obviously a fantastic product.
Yeah, well, we were very happy. We stocked the Z-aim sling, and as a concept, I think there were similar concepts before them floating around, but they were the real success story, really. And they became unavailable sort of during COVID, I think, and and there was a real demand for them. And I don't think it wasn't only me that spotted an opening there to supply slings on a similar concept. But I was really keen to put something really high quality together. And I've always loved leather. I've always loved a rifle with a nice wooden stock on it, with the high grade sort of wooden dark and light colors and all that kind of thing. So I went about finding a saddler who was willing to sort of manage the potential upscale of a product, which I always hoped would be popular, and it really has proven to be. Yeah.
It seems to be, definitely, as I say, because that Z-aim sling disappeared off the market. You mentioned that a few other companies sort of have produced something as well, but yours seems to be out there. It seems to be it is high quality. It's absolutely beautifully made. You're a man of my own heart, obviously. Wooden stocks on rifles, so the sling goes hand in hand at the end of the day. But you've also come up with a few extra bits that people can have. So if they've actually got a sling they really like, you've made like an adapter that will clip onto that sling to then make it into a 3-point harness.
Yeah, that's it. We just call it the Central Pro chest strap.
Right.
And it's a slip-on loop with a buckle that tightens up against your sling, so you can convert your own traditional sling into a 3-point harness as well.
Fantastic.
So yeah, pretty simple. Not an original concept, but the need is there. So yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think your latest piece that you've come out with, I used to like carry my rifle, obviously muzzle down, and I think we've discussed it on the phone before. And you've now created that if you've got the 3-point harness sling, the Deercentral sling, you've now made an extra pad that I'll let you explain.
Yeah, that's it. So I've, like you, very used to carrying my rifle muzzle down, but the 3-point sling is most comfortable. It doesn't really work with a muzzle down position. It needs to
No.
be muzzle up, which is good for crossing open terrain, getting from A to B. But even though I love that concept and I do use it, whenever I reach an area where I think I might have a time critical shot, or in woodland, for example, I always switch to muzzle down. But of course, doing that with a 3-point sling, you've just got this thin bit of canvas. So simple fix, we've created another leather pad which matches your soft leather pad at the other end, and it slides on. And you've then got the option. You can reconnect that chest strap so that it doesn't swing around in the wind, and you can switch to muzzle down, and you've got the pad at the other end as well.
Fantastic. No, absolutely. I'm kind of looking forward to fitting mine that you sent me to actually
let me know how you get on with it.
Get it out there and test it. I'd say the only reason I started really carrying the rifle muzzle up with the 3-point sling is I suffer massively with like bad back problems and all the rest of it. And anybody that's listening that hasn't got a bad back, when you get older and you walk around and you start to get a bad back, carrying a rifle on your shoulder all day, it suddenly starts to do weird things to how your back structure works. The 3-point takes all that pressure off because it actually stabilizes the rifle, and it's made stalking actually pleasurable again, rather than after 2 days of wandering around the woods suffering massively with like a sore shoulder or lower back pain. So no, it's worth looking at. Tell us some other products you've got going on, obviously within the shop.
Yeah, well, I try to focus on the essentials. So all the stuff a deer stalker needs, but none of the stuff you don't need.
Yep.
So I try to stock good quality kit, and with some kit, obviously, buying cheap is a false economy. But I still try to stock some good value kit at a slightly lower price range. So we've got the whole range. We do set people up with firearms. We're a firearms dealer, but as well as spotting optics and thermal. We're an official dealer for Pulsar and
Cool.
And GPO, which are a really good quality German company.
They seem to have come onto the market. Something I hadn't heard of for a while, and then obviously GPO popped. You see, there was a lot more posts going on social media about it, and having a look through a set of binos, they are cracking, spot on.
And as entry level, I always say, look, but spend as much as you can afford on your optics, because it's your optics that are really going to be critical to actually spotting and studying and IDing. But don't scrimp on optics, but don't think you have to spend top money necessarily.
No, absolutely. Well, there's some out there that you look at and it's eye-watering, the prices. But I remember being told when I bought my first rifle, buy the rifle even if it's second hand, but basically pay double what you've paid for the rifle and stick a piece of glass on it, because at the end of the day, the piece of glass on the rifle is the thing that's actually going to let you see what you're about to shoot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when people start shopping, I have quite a few conversations with people over the phone about rifles they've seen, they're looking at, and then talk about optics, and you can just tell that the sparkly toys, on the shelves or online that they're looking at, and you think that definitely invest in good optics. I agree.
Good glass, especially for us deer stalkers. The times when we need our optics the most is that dawn dusk, just that transition, and lower quality glass doesn't have it. It's weird. It gets kind of a milky effect that goes on, and suddenly your whole deer stalk can be ruined because all of a sudden you're transitioning on the light, that cusp of the light, and all of a sudden you can't see what you're trying to shoot at. Whereas if you've got something that's quality, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. I mean, usually the conversation goes to thermal and things like that, and that is the big temptation now for a lot of stalkers starting. Trying to juggle the bank balance between, do I invest in thermal or not? And Yeah, I don't know what your view is, but I always encourage anyone starting out to invest in a good set of binos first, and really
What?
learn the
Yeah, yeah,
craft.
absolutely. I'm very much, if you're going out stalking recreationally, realistically, if you can stalk with a pair of binos and your rifle, happy
Mm,
days. That's going to teach you more fieldcraft. If you go out there and you pull a thermal up and you see everything that's like a mile away, it,
mm,
it doesn't really give you the ability to actually find that. Okay, you still have to spot it and be able to adjust it, but you kind of got a head start on it. Whereas actually when you're walking along, when you start out, you're going to miss a few things and you're going to stumble over stuff, but that's the learning
mm.
curve that
Yeah,
makes you walk quieter, slower, take the
exactly.
pace
Yeah,
down. Whereas I think too many guys now can just go out and buy a relatively, well, it's almost low cost thermal, because when
yeah.
thermal first came to the market, it was eye watering again on prices. But
Mm.
I think under £1,000, you can now have a handheld spotter that will actually identify stuff. Okay, maybe not perfectly clear, but at least it's giving you a heat signature.
Yeah, that's it. No, it's there's no doubt it's changed the way we stalk. I was out with someone today, and he was taking the lead, a trainee, and we were working our way through this small scrubby field, and a blackbird got up and gave that sort of alarm call as it sort of flew down the hedgerow. And I stopped him and I said, "Look, did you hear that? You know what it's doing, and it's that's alerting the everything in the area." So I said, "Look, just if you hear that, and just stop still for a minute and just see, because deer will pick up on those signals."
Yeah.
It's all those little things that with a thermal you can be tempted to move faster, to
Oh,
scan
absolutely.
the mood.
And a deer can be standing behind a tree and you haven't seen it, and all of a
Yeah,
sudden you walk forward and this thing just turns and flies. But
that's it.
we've had problems with guys on the hill with thermals. They're there. You're standing there watching the deer. He's taken the shot. You followed it with your binos, because that's what you're going to do. The next thing he's like, "Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it. It's over there. It's run out of the picture." I'm like, "Well, no, your deer is 50 yards down there." "No, it can't be. I watched it run out with the thermal over there." It's like, let's go to where I think the deer is. Oh, look, there's your deer. And it's technology for you. Sometimes it
Yeah,
becomes too reliant and
yeah,
almost too complicated.
yeah,
Old-fashioned stalking was a fixed power scope and a set of binos. Now
yeah.
people are dialing stuff in and high precision and all the rest of it. And it's just like, go back to the basics to start. Learn to
Yeah,
stalk
start
with
with
the
the basics.
basics.
You really, and you do get so much more out of being in wildlife by slowing down, and just wildlife will come out around you if you slow down.
Absolutely. I think the most important words of advice, especially stalking seeker deer for me, was you stalk. What is it? Walk a little, look a lot, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And so if it's 10 paces and you glass again, you do, because
yeah.
actually in those 10 paces you've moved, the whole environment you're in suddenly can change.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, while we're on that subject of kit, let's just talk. Say we've got any new stalkers listening, or guys thinking about getting into it, or even ladies thinking about getting into it. Give us a couple of essentials that you think that any new person coming into stalking should have.
Mm. Well, as you might expect, having just chatted about optics, I'd say, yeah, definitely a good set of day optics, binos, and chatting to a few experienced stalkers to decide what magnification and objective lens size, because it does make a difference, and there might be slight differences depending on whether you're stalking open ground or woodland a lot more than open ground, that kind of thing. So it's good to have a chat to some experienced people before you make a decision, and then really the bits of setting up a rifle. I should say, I have come across cases where people have had rifles set up for them, and scopes haven't been mounted properly,
Right.
with the correct eye relief and things like that, um, and that makes a big difference to your shooting.
It will. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, getting a rifle set up properly by someone who really does know how to do it, and getting some time behind that rifle with someone who knows how to coach properly. That's really time and money well spent. But aside from that, if you were, I suppose, if we were just looking at processing kit, a good sharp knife,
Yep.
and you don't have to spend the earth on a knife. A knife that you know how to sharpen.
I think that's key. I think there's a lot of people out there, they get a sharp knife and it's really sharp on day one, but I think it's still the black art of being able to sharpen stuff. And actually, there's so many products out there that give you all the guide you need to actually sharpen a knife and keep a good edge on it.
Yeah, there are. We do stock a few. We stock the Lansky products.
Yep.
They're very basic. It's just understanding edge geometry and how to maintain an angle and how to refine an edge, not
Yes.
just hack away at it with a cheap a cheap device that's got one of these V's in it.
My biggest the thing we find the worst is in our larder. We've got other people come in and out when we're on the hill, and every time you go in the larder and pick one of the knives up, it's like, what has somebody done to it? It's almost like they've rubbed it across a brick, and you look across and there's this V-shaped thing there, and you're just like, oh, right.
Yeah.
So you've got to spend 20 minutes trying to get knives sharp to just finish the process. But we've kind of taken our own knives in the larder now. But as you say, the Lansky system, you can't fault it. It does exactly what it says on the tin, and it will give you a razor sharp edge.
Yeah, will. Just taking things through the stages from sharpening to honing to polishing. People forget that once you refine that edge, if you learn how to maintain that angle, or Lansky have some products that actually maintain the angle for you, then don't forget the last stage, which is the polishing stage. So we stock a few strops.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So if you look after your knife, and the other thing I love teaching people when I'm out deer stalking with them is how to use a knife properly, not hack away against the bones and things like that when you come to
knives don't cut bones, do they? A saw cuts bone, but knife doesn't.
That's it. But and then all you should need to do is you touch it up on a strop if you're looking after it, and then occasionally back to sharpening.
No, absolutely, and that's the key. It's getting people to understand that if you're out there and you're grollicking a deer, you don't need. You hear a lot of guys. I've met a lot of people that will go, "Oh, I just put the knife straight through the rib cage." All right, it works fine if it's a smaller animal and you've got a good blade with a probably a thicker a bigger angle on it at the end of the day, so it will go through a rib cage, but you still can damage your knife. So again, novices, it's teach them knife skills. That's what I seem to find, and just say, if you're going to cut rib cages, just buy yourself a £5 or £6 saw or something like that, and I'm sure you probably stock something like that.
Yeah, no, we do, and I think for me it's more the safety aspects of cutting through a rib cage, because it only takes one slip.
Exactly.
And if you've got a saw made for the job, a little short breastbone saw, you don't have to spend much on one. There are some, we do Castron, which are the probably the best out there, but we do some cheaper ones as well. Yeah.
And for the amount of use it gets, it'll never, realistically, your average stalker's never going to blunt it down unless you're going to go and chop all the trees down around you to try and find somewhere to hang your deer with your S-hooks out of the tree.
That's it.
But realistically, that saw is going to last you a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Castron, they've even got exchangeable blades, but I've never really had anyone come back to me saying that they need a new blade for one. I mean, Castron used to have a weak point in the tang. And before they widened it, there were a few that snapped at that weak point. But no, they're a good company, Castron. Their knives as well. Yeah, we stock their knives. They've got they've developed some a lot more Kydex sheaths now, which are a bit more hygienic than the leather sheath. So I'm really pleased that because I'm supposed to sort of promote the best practice, the hygiene
Yeah,
and
no,
stuff.
absolutely.
And yeah, so you can buy a Kydex sheath for them as well as your fancy leather sheath, and good
Very
brand.
good. I'm assuming you obviously stock other things like sticks and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, thanks for the prompt. The Viperflex sticks. Do you know I've stocked Viperflex sticks for quite some time, and all of the kit that I usually end up stocking, I've tried and I've thought either that's really good value for stalkers starting out, or that's the best tool that I found to do that particular job. And Viperflex comes under the latter category. I really enjoy coaching on the range with them. When you set them up for someone and show them how to set their position up behind a set of Viperflex sticks. Yeah, you can get incredible results. Some people say, that they've built the confidence to never really take another prone shot again.
There's certainly there. Well, I remember when the first quad sticks came out. I think I built my own set of quad sticks back in the day for air rifle shooting out of some wood I bought from B&Q, and then obviously Klaus developed over the years his Viperflex and finally came out with his latest designs. But yeah, quad sticks they change the game. Literally, when you can set up there and for anybody that's listening, the only movement realistically you're going to get is a vertical movement. It's your breathing movement.
Yeah.
If you can control that, then you can take 200-yard shots happily off Viperflex sticks and put them in the target. But for a novice that's training, that 100-yard shot off a set of sticks, it's so stable.
Yeah. I enjoy teaching people how to shoot with them in the closed position, so twin sticks. So
Okay.
because what I've found is certainly taking novices out stalking is they come I take everyone through a marksmanship coaching session now. If anyone comes to me, I say, look, you're new to me, let's go on the range. Let's start from the beginning. Let's get the fundamentals right with your shooting, and then allows me to get to know someone a little bit, and then I'll take them deer stalking. You see, so and what I found though, in the past is that people attempted to set the sticks up in the most stable position they can, because it gives them a bit more confidence to be able to shoot accurately. Whereas what I find, if I take people out in the range and actually show them how to build the correct position behind twin sticks, as you know, especially stalking woodlands, it's time critical.
Yes. Yeah.
The time it takes to set those quad sticks up for a novice, the deer's gone, or
Yep.
or notice the movement and then gone. To be able to give someone the confidence to be able to set their position up correctly on twin sticks and take an accurate shot at a sensible distance. It's
Fantastic. So that kind of actually moves us quite nicely on to, you've just mentioned there that you obviously do a firearms training appreciation course. What else? What other training does Deercentral offer? Because that's sort of the other side of the part of the business, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Well, it's built around training and education, and I use the DSC system. It's the system that I got involved with when I first started. That was the first course I did, the DSC one. And it was the framework the organisation I was involved with used, right through to DSC2. So I've been lucky enough to become an approved trainer, and BASC, and an assessor for the qualification. So for the deer stalking side of things, it's certainly built around that structured framework of the DSC. And I'll have people come out with me prior to doing those courses, just because they want to, see if it's for them. And then, we'll go to the range and we'll do a bit of shooting on the range prior to going out for a deer stalk. And I also get clients that come back to me after doing DSC one with me first, and then I progress them practically, and give them that progression of experience towards DSC2. I've had I run a firearms awareness course. I run a kind of a 1 day and a 2 day firearms safety or firearms awareness course as well. So I've delivered that in the past, but I suppose that's more for people going into pest control.
Okay. Yeah.
And want that proof of training from a credible trainer, if you like.
But I suppose it helps with people applying for their firearms license, because obviously if somebody's come and done a course with you, it's obviously one of those things that they can put in their covering letter for their application, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And I mean, even last week I had an officer from the Met call me, and I delivered one of these courses to someone maybe a year ago, and he's now going. This student is now going through his application for his firearms certificate, and we were chatting on the phone, and I do think they have quite a tough job to do, because whilst there is no legal requirement to have either a DSC1 or a qualification of such to get a firearms certificate issued, the police do have to still kind of establish whether someone's sufficiently experienced not to be arrested.
It's fit and competent, isn't it? Really, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, he was saying to me, to have that certificate of attendance with the subjects listed on it that we'd covered was really valuable, and I think that's the difference between that they've used a mentorship system in the past, and I think some counties still use that, but how do you quantify the quality of that mentorship, or how can you say you've got a credible mentor? It's quite difficult, isn't it? But yeah, so I do run that side of things as well.
Okay, so obviously people listening might not know, but if they don't, they're about to find out. DSC1 has changed. Can you tell us what those changes are?
Yeah. So first thing I should probably say is I'm although I've been involved with the system for so many years, and I'm still involved with delivering DSC1 now and DSC2 as a trainer and assessor. I'm obviously, I don't speak on behalf of the organisation, either BASC or DMQ. So I can certainly give you an overview from trainer's point of view.
Okay.
So I think the first thing that I see talked about a lot is the food hygiene.
Okay, yeah, that was kind of one of the big things that got picked up. Yeah.
So it's quite frustrating for me, actually, because as a trainer, I know there's talk that it's been taken out, and you no longer get your food hygiene qualification. Well, as a trainer, I know that nothing has changed.
Okay.
The DSC1 that I teach still contains all of the food hygiene module,
right?
And candidates are still assessed. So what has changed? What people picked up on is this status of trained hunter. So trained hunter status was awarded after DSC1 prior to the change.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that got shifted because I mean, I remember when one of the big criticisms of DSC1, and you always get the critics out there, don't you?
You do.
One of the criticisms was that candidates or students were completing DSC1 and many of them never having seen a carcass in the flesh, excuse the pun, and then they're qualified and as trained hunters, and they can go and put carcasses into the food chain. And the change everyone should really be quite supportive of, and in that now trained hunter status is awarded at DSC2. So So the practical progression, or the experience built, then people take DSC2 and they prove that they can put all of that theory into practice. And
Which actually is a much better way of having it, because even when I think back to doing my DSC1, yeah, you filled all that, you did all of the exams, you did your practical, and all of a sudden you got a piece of paper that said, yeah, you're a trained hunter. It's like, I've never grollicked a deer. How's that supposed to be the case?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. The content that I teach on DSC1, I feel is really quite good, considering its theory in a classroom.
Yes,
I love to do a practical demo where I can, and I have done that on courses in the past. But at quite a few venues, it's just not possible, you know. But I do want to take people on from DSC1 and train them practically. So I always encourage people to book in with me, and I can go through things like that with them one-to-one.
I think that's the key, isn't it? I think there's I remember back to mine. I think my DSC one was done with a chap called David Streatham, who was Donington Deer Management. Now he obviously added his own extras in there, and I remember when we came onto the hygiene and lymph nodes and all, they'd literally taken a deer, taken the skin off it, and then taken it down in slices almost, so you could see everything as you were going through it, and he could explain all of that. But as you say, that was just his own additional slides, and trying to do something like that in a classroom, sometimes you've just mentioned it's not possible to then whip out a deer and grolic it there and then for your students, because it's got to be fresh that morning, because otherwise it's going to be a fairly big balloon in there. Exactly. But yeah, taking them on, and actually the one-to-one, I think the real learning for most people is the hands-on experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very practical topic, really, isn't it? I mean, but to be able to build that underpinning knowledge, you know, in the classroom, and it adds so much more to someone's experience. You know, it's possible to go out and learn a lot in the field over a long period of time, if you're lucky enough to do that. But to be able to get some formal training, you know, in a short space of time, you know, yeah, you can go better equipped.
Well, I think we're about one of the only countries I know of, because I was talking to somebody, even the States, to get your hunter's permit, it starts off, the guys start learning this stuff at high school. So they can all go out. They've got to pass their hunting exam before they can get their bow, or they can go out and actually basically go get their tags. And I think it's the same in places like Scandinavia and Germany. You all have to go and do a fairly long-winded hunter's education program to get that qualification, and then you can have your hunting rifle, and you can go out by yourself and actually go hunting. Whereas we're incredibly spoilt in the UK. We can get your rifle and you can go out and go stalking.
Yeah, it's built into a tradition in many continental countries, isn't it? And I mean, I think the way we have it in this country, it does, it is a little bit of an anomaly, isn't it? I think if you have good reason, if you can give the police good reason why you should be able to have a firearm, and you tick all of those other boxes, you can have a firearm issued for either pest control or foxing or deer.
Normally it's a 243, but you start somewhere, and that's where it goes from. So it's but that's it. Anyway, let's pull it back round to the DSC1. So the other major thing that's changed on that, I think, is the practical. Do you want to just tell people how that's sort of changed from what it used to be?
By practical, you mean shooting?
Yeah, the actual shooting test.
So there was a change in that the target that is used, the kill area was reduced to 5 inches as a circle, from a slightly different sort of rectangular shape across the kill area of the chest.
Okay.
There was.
So is that's on the silhouette target, isn't it? Because you'll get to shoot a zeroing target first, and then there was obviously there used to be like what looked like a row silhouette kind of thing.
Yeah, so the zeroing target used to be part of the assessment. You had to print 3 rounds into that 4-inch zeroing circle first before you moved on to the deer target.
That's right.
Now, all of the assessment is on that deer silhouette target.
Okay.
Candidates still shoot the 3-round grouping, but it's a proof that the rifle's zeroed and a bit of a confidence boost to the candidate. Then the main assessment is done on that silhouette target. So they start at 100 meters shooting prone, and you print 2 rounds into that 5-inch kill area, and then move forward to 70. And the candidate's got a choice of sitting, kneeling, standing, supported, so arguably sticks. 2 rounds into that 5-inch kill area, and then they move forward to between 10 and 20 meters, and then and this is another change which people pick out, is that now you've got 2 dispatch shots that you take. You have to print two rounds into a 2-inch kill area on the head.
Okay.
Simulating a dispatch shot, or 2 dispatch shots. So yeah, I think it's still you hear people saying, oh, it's too easy, or there's all sorts of criticisms out there. But the thing is, I still see people struggle with it, and it's not just newbies. Experienced people.
I was going to say the 2 shots at 10 or 20 yards. That's understanding the ballistics and the characteristics of your rifle, because a lot of people zero will be, let's say 150 yards. Somebody's got zeroed, so at 100 yards on a 308, for example, it might be an inch high. Well, by the time you come down to 10 yards, you may have to hold over or hold under a considerable amount to be able to put that round in that 2-inch square, and you've got to understand that what your rifle does. And if people don't understand ballistics, basic ballistics, they're not going to be able to pass that. I'm assuming you see that often.
It's not so much often, but certainly it happens. And I take people out on the range, I use that sort of format as part of my marksmanship coaching. So
right.
So when anyone comes to me, we do a bit of time with rimfire, because it's not only cheap, but it's a brilliant way of building the basics.
Yes, of course.
Distance. And then I moved to centerfire, and we used the DSC1 silhouette target. I've seen, so the candidates that I've taken through marksmanship coaching, the things that I see people struggle with is building their position properly, and positioning themselves behind the sticks, and allowing the sticks to do the work, and then understanding how to manage recoil. And then it comes down to cheek weld as well. Creating a sight, making sure that your eye relief is correct and you've got a good cheek weld, but consistency. So the fun thing about having people on the range is that you can show them things that they're not noticing that they're doing themselves, and you're kind of pointing different things out to them. Say, do you realize you're doing this or that? And when they start adjusting and actually seeing themselves printing round after round consistently in the same place, for between positions, because if you don't understand some of those building blocks, the marksmanship principles, and you know how to apply them, I do see people print a couple of rounds in a completely different position to in prone to when they're standing with sticks, and then they're wondering why those rounds are going high, and that, or actually why they're going low. They could be anticipating the shot, or they could be snatching the trigger. These things happen, and then of course when it comes to the dispatch shots, sometimes you've got to think about it. You've got to understand, where what your trajectory is doing.
it's a whole other ball game, that getting up close and personal to sort of that deer. And I think luckily not a lot of people have to do that, but there are times when if you have to be prepared to go in there and do that.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. It's actually, I think it's, in my opinion, they're good changes, because to be able to practice that, and help people in the run up to a DSC1 course and teach them, that one day, they might have to dispatch a deer at close range and they'll know how to do it.
exactly. Yeah, no. Right. So now we've covered obviously the level 1 changes. Level 2 has changed. Like now you were talking about the food hygiene. Obviously the theoretical side is covered in DSC1, but once you've completed your level 2, you actually get awarded the food hygiene and trained hunter status. Is that right?
Yeah. Basically, you're proving that you can do everything practically, which does take a bit of experience. It's not a course; it's an assessment. So candidates are expected to go away and build experience before putting themselves.
Yeah, the level 2 is kind of go and do some stalking kind of thing, and then when you're comfortable and you feel confident, get a witness out and kind of do it that way. Is that's sort of the way I think it should be?
Yeah, definitely. It's you sign up to an assessment centre. They book you onto the system and give you access to an online portfolio, and then you're right. You go and find an approved witness, and they observe you on a raft of criteria.
Yeah, so it's a fairly, anybody that's thinking of doing it, obviously the DSC2, I think it was 3 stalks, but now it's been reduced down to 1 stalk.
Yes. So you're right. It used to be 3. It's now 1. It's. I mean, just my personal opinion. I really enjoy delivering training, and whenever anyone comes to me, I want to prepare them fully to the point where they are ready to take that one assessment.
Right.
I think I mean, I've heard someone say, when talking about DSC2 and the 3 to 1 stalks, you don't have to take your driving test more than once.
No, absolutely.
And I think from my perspective, I really enjoy preparing people for the assessment, and I'll give them really reliable feedback, and I'll say, you really need to spend some time getting used to taking the head off, or you need to learn a bit more about how to or get the familiarity, build your familiarity in how to cut into the head to find the glands, submaxillary and the retropharyngeal. Build up a bit of confidence that you can find them every time. And
no, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. I think it probably has made it so that people actually have to take a bit more time and practice to understand where things are, whereas you are doing that one assessment to get that pass at the end of the day. So it probably is a bit more scrutiny because you get one shot at it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I'd recommend, just as someone who enjoys taking people through the process, it's finding people who can show you how to do things properly to a high standard. I think what I say to people who have gone through DSC1 with me, having done that course and having been taught best practice in the classroom, go and get as much experience as you can with as many different people as you can, and hopefully now you'll be able to discern good practice from bad practice. And just take what be discerning. Take the good and forget the bad.
Pretty much exactly the same advice I'd give to people. It's like, come stalking with me, but go stalk with somebody else, because everybody has a different way of doing it. And what works for me might not work for you, but you see that somebody else does it this way and you go, oh, that works. There's no right and wrong, as long as at the end of the day you produce a carcass that's fit for the food chain. That's the crux of this. As long as what you finally do, and if you're keeping that carcass and you're going to eat it yourself, it's still clean and safe. That's it, really. As long as it turns into a nice piece of venison on your plate, and it's you're not going to poison anybody. Happy days, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, safe, hygienic, humane. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that's what it's all about. And yeah, you're right. There's many different techniques used, and to meet that end goal. It's good fun going out and seeing how people do things as well.
Absolutely. So my last bit we're going to pull you on to is, obviously it's the beginning of the year and everybody's thinking about the show seasons. What shows will you be heading to, or is there a particular one that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, well, so I think the one I most look forward to mixing with people and meeting up with deer stalkers, old faces and new, will be the stalking show.
Yep.
So yeah, in April. It's only been going a couple of years, I think, hasn't it?
But it's couple of years, but it seems to be the show that it's like-minded people. We all go there because everybody stalks or is hunter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a good group of people. It's quite focused on deer stalking, which is always good. We're quite lucky. We seem to be quite busy for the years that we've gone. We've been the last couple of years, and yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there. We'll the other things that I suppose we'll be doing. We do a lot of country shows. So in our local area. So I'm based in Yeovil. I do a fair bit of stalking in West Dorset, as well as another couple of places around the country. But West Dorset is the main bit. So I try and do a number of country shows around my area because I'm trying to bring people into shooting, into deer stalking, that maybe haven't really had thought about it or found an opportunity.
Fantastic. So kind of a bit more like a bit of ambassadoring actually at these country shows and kind of showing people it's not all about shooting Bambi. It's actually there's a reason for the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's one of the main reasons why we don't do all of the shooting shows. I mean, the other reason is it's it is mainly me behind the scenes, and there's only so much that I can do. But yes. But yeah, I do deliberately focus on some of those shows. And Gone Wild with Bear Grylls is another show we've been to for the.
I've seen you've been at that a few times, and has that gone well? Has that had produced sort of lots of interest?
Yeah, it's surprisingly actually, and so it's a festival which is a kind of a celebration of the outdoors, I suppose it could be described as, which is kind of represented by Bear Grylls, as the name suggests, run by ex-Royal Marines. So you've got all the Royal Marine recruiting stands there, and they've got the assault course and all kinds of other things going on. And then they've got music festival in the evenings. So it's a family festival. But it's surprising actually that the footfall past my stand and the amount of conversations I have. And with all kinds of people from different dietary persuasions, shall we say, and I can't think of a single negative conversation there, despite having chatting to various people, vegans, vegetarians.
Fantastic. But that's what it's all about, and probably you've probably got an audience that are receptive and interested to actually hear, rather than you're behind the scenes on the computer keyboard warriors that are just out there for a fight at the end of the day. Actually, most people are willing to listen, at least.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, I think it's that's the risk with spending too much time online on forums. I think is that you can begin to think that that this is representative of society. It can be quite worrying. But no, my experience, yes, you do get people who are quite fixed-minded, narrow-minded perhaps, but the majority of people are actually willing to listen.
But I think that's the thing. I think if you can find a sort of if you enjoy what you do and you have a passion about it, and you're not ramming it down somebody's throat, but you're explaining the situation and all the rest of it, you end up finding that people will actually stop and take the time and have that communication. But if you're there telling them what we're doing is you have to do that, blah blah blah, blah, it they puts their back up straight away. So
It
obviously
does.
you must be
Yeah.
doing something right if you get people that come and stop and listen and are happy to pass the time with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I mean, I'm really keen to find other ways to get people engaged, and it's and the one thing that I was pushing at Gone Wild with Bear Grylls, and I still am pushing, is our field to fork experience. So
Yep.
it's kind of an amalgamation of all my professional experience so far in life, if you like. So I'm bringing together all of the kind of the deer management experience and training delivery and the organization of that, and then my experience in private service as a butler. And what I'm trying to do is deliver an experience where people are catered for, wined and dined, but then we've got the outdoor elements of the experience where so the wining and dining obviously involved wild game venison, but then
Yeah.
the outdoor modular experience is built around deer stalking. So no one actually kills anything on the experience, but we've got the modular activities. So we're going out wildlife watching, we're taking them onto the range, they're doing some marksmanship coaching, and then we're going on a simulated deer stalk on steel
Oh,
targets, and then
fantastic.
we're into the woods and they break down a carcass and cook over open flames. They can stay in the woods overnight or go back to the accommodation. So yeah, I'm trying to reach the right ears for that experience at the moment, and my target audience is the city dwellers who maybe haven't had any experience of.
No, and I yeah, wholeheartedly. I think I ran a competition, probably 3-4 years ago now. And it was just something I did silly, just stuck it up on Facebook and said, anybody that wants to learn about deer stalking, drop me a message and come to Scotland and stalk. Well, it was actually what was it? I think the first takers were a friend of mine's sister added me suddenly on Facebook. I hope you don't mind, but we'd love to take you up on that. We've never done anything like it. They came up here, put them on the target. She shot her first deer. We butchered it up. We sent them home with venison, and from that point on, both of them now, her and her husband are now deer stalkers.
Brilliant.
And they
Yeah.
love going out and doing it, and it is a true passion that they share together.
Yeah.
So it's just things like that. It's simple little things, but actually being able to, I'd say I think a lot of new people come into the game and they struggle because you go and pay to go stalking, and a lot of outfitters, thanks very much, they'll drive you out. Oh, we're going to walk down here. There's a deer, shoot it, bang, in the car, back. That's it. Job done. You're off home.
Yeah.
And nobody gets anything from that. They've kind of, it was a bit quick. I've done my stalk, or I've been out for a few hours and we've shot something. But to actually go through the whole process, so I got them straight away. I was like, right, I'm going to take one leg off. You're going to take the next one off. Don't worry if you don't get the flat joint, but that's what I'm aiming for. And once
Yeah.
you've, and yeah, it takes a bit of time. I went, but there's no rush. This deer, it's not going anywhere. You've got all the time in the world to do this, and it's just things like that allow them to get that full experience. So yeah, offering sort of a full field to fork, breaking it down, they can at least go back and sit in the pub, can't they? And they can say to people, well, I know a good piece of venison, and here, this is stuff we've brought home.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's service delivery, isn't it? At its heart, it's knowing how to deliver a good service, and I think that's certainly something I've learnt a hell of a lot about in private service. The difference between just in and out the door to some special and also getting a lot from their
We've learned. It's the same on the hill. You get somebody up to go stalking a big stag. Yeah, you could rush them up to the hill. Yeah, you could put them on a deer. They pull the trigger. Thanks very much. you will go back down to the pub and the ghillie will do all the work, but actually they want to come in, they want to take that time, savor that moment, look at the animal they've got, take in the environment. And that's something this year that sort of Tom and I have really worked hard on. And every client, you can see it, they've come off the hill with such a smile on their face, and the whole experience has worked for them. It's been great. All right, the ones that maybe didn't come off the smile with a smile because we were up there in a red weather warning and we were soaking wet and we dragged 2 stags out the back of a corrie. But at the end of the day, they'll never forget that day. That's the
story,
main thing. It's a story. Everybody's had a story. There's no stalk has been get out the Argo, there's a deer, shoot it, get back in the Argo, we'll drive down again. Everybody has had to work for what they've taken off the hill.
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely.
Perfect. Well, I think we've probably exhausted all my questions I had for you. So yeah, thank you ever so much for your time. It's been spot on. And if anybody's looking, go and see him at the Stalking Show, or go visit. I'll put links of your website and your Instagram page. Go visit, give him a follow. And yeah, if you're new into stalking, Deercentral, Ben will guide you through. I think you even travel potentially if there's a group that want a DSC one.
I do. I deliver training. Our training locations at the moment are Hereford, Bisley National Shooting Centre, up there just on the outskirts of London.
Yep.
Down here in Dorset, Somerset, and then down in Devon. But yeah, I do deliver one-to-one tuition, and people can contact me and inquire on that too.
Well, definitely worth it. So anybody listening to this that's keen and you want to know more, either drop him a message, drop him a DM or something like that. He's very good at getting back to you, and you'll definitely learn something from it. So thank you very much, Ben. No problem at all.
Thanks.
Superb. No worries. So thanks for listening again to that podcast. If you want to know more, get on over to the Deercentral website. You can also find Ben either on Facebook or on Instagram. As I said, he's very good at responding to his messages. Drop him a note and he'll get back to you. If you're going to any of the shows, again, he's obviously going to be there, so you've got a good chance of catching up with him. But word of warning, the stand is normally very busy, so if you want to have a long chat, you might have to wait in line because there'll be a lot of people wanting to talk to him. As I say, the quickest method is to just drop him a message. Anyway, thanks for listening again, and we will catch you in the next one.